Hello my friends, this is Christian from Germany. In my new video I'm gonna show you a very cool trick against the Sicilian Sveshnikov. The good side on this is you can use this in some blitz games and you also can use this variation in classical games. Okay, it all starts after pawn to e4, pawn to c5, knight to f3, knight to c6, then we have d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to f6, knight to c3. And after e5, we reached the Sicilian Sveshnikov variation. And only by the way, I want to mention that knight to f5 seems to be a very good move, but I think after pawn to d5, black can easily equalize the game. So I cannot recommend this move. I can recommend the main move, by far the main move here, which is knight to b5. You're setting a threat to come into the d6, so black forcefully has to play pawn to d6. And now, by far the main move will be bishop to g5. But I can promise you most of Sicilian Sveshnikov players will know these lines very, very exactly and are very prepared for them. So I can recommend a more tricky move here, and this is to play knight to d5 immediately. Now we have a threat on the c7 square, which cannot be ignored. So I would say black is forced to take the knight on d5. Knight takes, pawn takes. Now black has to make a big decision in this game. The right move will be retreating the knight to the b8, but I can promise you very, very much players wanna play knight to e7, and now here starts the tricky camp. It's a matter of choice if you wanna play a pawn to c3 or a pawn to c4. The trick works on both lines, but I think the move pawn to c4 is the main move. It gives you a little bit more space advantage, and is also a very solid move. Okay. Now we reached a critical position where black can go wrong very quickly and can lose the game. The worst move black can play is bishop to d7 because it's a checkmate on the d6. And the second worst move black can play, this is completely losing move, is pawn to a6 because now we have queen to a4. And pawn cannot take the knight because the rook is hanging in the corner. So logically enough, he has to play the queen or the bishop to d7, but I can show you what will happen. If bishop goes here, yes, we have the check, we saw this before, the checkmate on d6. And on the other hand, if queen to d7, you can also give this check. King has to go away, you give another check, king has to go to the c7, you give another check, king has to go out of the way, then you can exchange queens, take the knight and the rook, and this is completely winning for white. Of course, I'm gonna show you how you can trick your opponent if he plays a correct move and removes his knight from the e7. At first, I'm gonna show you the move knight to the g6. And then, yes, we have also the tricky move queen to a4. And after the very logical bishop to d7, we simply play queen to b4. And now you can see we have a new target on the d6 square. So you have to do something. One of the best choices and the most logical choice, I think, is to remove the knight. So bishop takes on b5, queen takes check, queen d7. And now I can recommend to exchange up the queens here. And if you look at this endgame position, you can see that you have not only the bishop pair, also you have a cute space advantage. And I think you can hope for the full point in this position. Of course, I'm gonna show you how to play if your opponent plays the knight to the f5. Then it is important to remember that queen to a4 doesn't work immediately. At first you have to wait if he does fianchetto, his black square bishop on the king's side. I can show you what I mean. At first, bishop to d3, then we have the g6, castle on the king's side, and bishop to g7. And if you see bishop to the g7, you can just smile because queen to a4 can be played now. And for example, he tries to go for this logical move with bishop to the d7 and thinks that this knight is pinned. But this is a big, big blunder. Because if you look at the position, if the knight on f5 will be removed, so the d6 is no longer defended, and this is completely crushing. So I can show you what will happen after bishop takes, pawn takes. You just give this check on the d6. And now the king has to forcefully go to a black square, for example to the f8. Then you just go with queen to a3, threatening the discover check. And after the forced king to g8, then after this, in this position, you can do what you want. For example, you can capture this pawn, and this is completely hopeless. This rook is out of the game, and also the position is completely losing. At least I'm gonna show you how to play against a stronger opponent which knows the theory. And after it captures on d5, of course the correctly move is to retreat the knight to b8 and not to e7. So knight to b8 is the correct move, and then we should just develop our pieces and go for a long-term advantage. So I can recommend c4 now, then after bishop e7, bishop d3, castles, castles, and then we have knight bd7, this is the main move. Then another developing move, queen to c2, you're threatening to give the check on h7, so g6 has to be played. And after this, we play bishop to e3, for example. Then comes f5. And after f5, it's very important to notice in Sicilian Sveshnikov, when f5 was played, f3 is a good answer to don't allow some dangerous attacks on the king side, because this is the plan in Sicilian Sveshnikov, to crush black wants to crush through on the king side, and white is gonna go for a counter attack on the queen side. And if you play f3, it is much more easy to defend this attack from black. So f3 very important, and in the most times there's a coming pawn to a6, and this knight has to retreat to c3. And if we reach this position, I think it's equal. But on the other hand, I think it's easier to play this position with white. You can easily crush through on the queen side, and on the other side, black has to look for some creative attack on the king side. And this is not really easy after the move pawn to f3. Okay, that was it, guys. I hope you liked this video, this cool trick in Sicilian Sveshnikov, and I wish you much luck and much success with this new trick and video. Bye bye.